is NBC Palm Springs.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Daytona Everett. Topping our news tonight. The apple fire is finally starting to look under control. It's now up to 40% contained after burning more than 32,412 acres. Yesterday's fire activity was described as minimal, with flames being held within the established perimeter. Some firefighters have been sent home and some teams reduced as progress continues to be made. Still, over 2,700 firefighters are fighting the blaze. New this afternoon, all evacuation warnings in Riverside County and some in San Bernardino County have been lifted, though all of Morongo Valley remains under an evacuation warning. And a smoke advisory is still in effect for parts of the Coachella Valley. Full containment is expected in just a week. CAL FIRE officials continue to provide us with daily briefings. Here's fire behavior analyst Dennis Burns with an update.
We'll start up here in Branch 1, Division Foxtrot. Crews have secured the line down there today on this lower slope and going up to the top of Wilshire Peak. They're doing really heavy mop up just to ensure that that line's secured. We're hoping 2 to 3 days up here, they'll have all the heat sources isolated and dealt with, and we can start putting some black on the map. Moving on up into Branch 3, we flew crews into H1 yesterday. Again, they've assessed the areas of heat. Nothing that is truly a threat to the line right now. So they're going to work that today in combination with aircraft and deal with those sources of heat. They're also sending a squad out in this direction to begin working that. We've established another heli spot right here, and we had to use repellers to do that. To get in there, they cleared some trees, and they're going to begin flying in crews and start dealing with some of the heat sources up here. And then they're going to walk out and deal with this. So we're looking at 3 to 5 days of really difficult work in there. Moving down into Branch 5, they're securing this. They're doing some really heavy mop up, and now they're starting to kind of push up. Come along down to the bottom of Branch 5. This is lighter fuels. It was grass and things. The crews have worked this pretty good, and I would expect tomorrow morning that you'll see black on the map here. We're feeling really comfortable that this is going to hold and not pose any threat.
Another update in a string of shootings in Palm Springs that have officials worried for the safety of the community. Police arrested 5 people last night for various felony and misdemeanor violations. One was a juvenile arrested for his involvement in recent Palm Springs shootings. He had a loaded firearm that's believed to have been used in several of the reported shootings. The remaining arrests included outstanding felony warrants for weapons and drug possession. Earlier in the week, Palm Springs Police Chief Brian Reyes spoke about the threat to the community.
This is not a Gateway Estates problem. This is not a 1500 East San Rafael problem. This is a City of Palm Springs problem. This operation is going to lead us into other directions, and we will continue to press forward until we solve these crimes and at the same time find a way to partner with those communities to start addressing this and looking at ways to put an end to this.
Since October, Palm Springs police have received 85 calls related to shots fired in the North Palm Springs area. They're now working with Cathedral City and Indio police departments, as well as Riverside County sheriffs and the DEA. All right, we're going to check in now with NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett for a look at your forecast.
Well, temperatures over the next few days are going to be basically the same day over and over again. By day, we will run a few degrees above average. Remember, 107 is the average for this time of year. We're going to run above 110, but not too much. None of that 120 degree stuff on the horizon here. So it's going to be steady but warm. Evening winds that we saw gust up tonight will subside as we get closer to midnight, get ourselves back into the single digits again and help that firefighting effort. Meanwhile, overnights will stay mild. We're going to do everything we can to keep it in the 70s. I'll show you what those numbers look like in a moment. Weekend outlook, well, even though it's halfway gone, still looks like we're going to continue to see the same pattern that we saw on Saturday. High pressure is built in. It's keeping the southwest hot. Some monsoonal flow will start to creep up early on Monday, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near us. In fact, long-term forecast models suggesting we won't see any monsoonal flow for at least the next week or so. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air, showing temperatures hitting that 110 mark on Monday, 111 on Tuesday, back down to 110 on Wednesday. So that will stay fairly the same. It's the thing in the overnights that's important. We're going to keep ourselves in the mid to upper 70s. I'll tell you how long this pattern lasts coming up.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Some grim milestones in the fight against COVID-19. The United States has passed 5 million cases. It took just 16 days to get from 4 million to 5 million. There's over 162,000 deaths in America, and California has the most cases with over 550,000. New York has the most deaths with over 32,000. We've seen many restrictions tighten again with rising coronavirus numbers here in the Valley. Many businesses are closed. One of those, Westfield Mall, is partially closed, but some shopping can now be done outside at the Flat Black Art Walk. Our Nico Payne visited to see what the shopping experience is all about. Nico.
Local vendors set up shop just out front of the mall with white tents and misters, and organizers tell me this event is a way to help small businesses who are struggling. Flat Black Art Walk organizers have worked with Westfield Mall and held events indoors in years past, but this year they had to adapt because of the pandemic, and some quick thinking resulted in the event being held outside.
They're all small businesses, so they haven't ventured out entirely just yet. They're just beginning, so we're offering that first step to being able to venture out and be known in the community.
All vendors are welcome, but because of social distancing guidelines, space is limited, which may put you on a waiting list.
We saw it on Instagram, the art walk, because we've been to it before. So we decided to contact them, and then we decided to show up.
Sixthel started this small business with her sisters and says they hope to bring a little bit of happiness to people through their designs.
How they react when they see our things, it's nice because it kind of makes them forget a little bit or not focus too much on what's going on.
The art walk will run for the entire month of August during the weekends, and vendors will be rotated. Organizers say they hope to extend this event even further.
This will go on actually for the month of September, October, November. As long as we are given the green light, we'll just continue it out through actually the end of the year.
You have a lot of big competition with big known jewelry makers, so it's harder for us to really get out there. Definitely being out here brings in more people that don't even know about this kind of business.
To be a part of the Flat Black Art Walk, all you have to do is reach out to them on Facebook or Instagram, and of course you can find all the information on our website, NBCPalmSprings.com. Reporting in studio, I'm Nico Payne.
All right, thank you, Nico, bringing some life back to Westfield. All right, let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers from Riverside County and the Coachella Valley. The county doesn't report numbers on weekends, so these are as of Friday. Over 40,000 cases in the county, over 10,000 of those from the valley, 799 deaths in the county, 243 from the valley. Keep in mind that the state is having issues reporting cases, so these numbers don't accurately reflect the current situation in the county and valley. That's according to health officials. That technical glitch that created a massive backlog of COVID-19 test results in California has now been fixed, but health experts say hundreds of thousands of tests have not been counted. Officials say until the data is entered, health officers won't know if COVID cases are going up or going down. A COVID-19 test you complete yourself is showing success here in California. The kiosk walks you through it. Take a swab and wipe the inside of your mouth for 20 seconds. Because the test is self-administered, it cuts the risk of exposure to others. Test results are emailed in 24 to 48 hours. Curative, the company that makes the test, says they're doing 60 to 70,000 tests a day right now, most of that in LA, Texas, and Florida. As coronavirus cases and deaths continue increasing in the U.S., new projections seem to surface daily. Today, some scientists are saying the number of deaths in the United States could reach 300,000 by the end of the year. Victor Blackwell reports.
If doctors and healthcare experts are correct, the wave of COVID-19 infections is not even close to over.
We failed early on to adopt the testing that was necessary, and even more so, we failed to ramp that up to a degree that we're going to need in the coming season.
One important university model predicts that the number of Americans who will have died from COVID could reach 300,000 by December 1st. Public health professionals are pleading with people to wear a face covering in public, but many are refusing.
There should be a federal mask mandate. We know from studies across the country that when there is a mask mandate in place, the number of infections drops dramatically. There have been studies suggesting that mask mandates are actually more effective than lockdowns.
On Saturday, the California Department of Health reported 7,371 new cases. The Florida Department of Health reported more than 8,500 cases. Health officials in Texas said the state's 7-day COVID-19 positivity rate had risen to more than 19%, the highest 7-day average since the pandemic began. Doctors say one important factor to reopening the U.S. while maintaining safety is rethinking the national strategy on testing for the virus.
Testing is so important because it helps you distinguish who's a case from who's not, who needs contact tracing. Right now, we're only doing about 800,000 tests a day, which is so far below the minimum daily target of at least 2 million tests a day, if not 4 million tests every day. That's what we need to do to get a handle on this.
New York's governor is allowing schools to reopen this fall with a reduced number of students in each classroom and with the help of parents.
If your child is sick or is exhibiting any symptoms, do not send them to school. If you're feeling sick, stay home. But we're going to have temperature checks. We're going to have randomized temperature checks. Everyone will be wearing personal protection equipment. Face masks will be required. We're going to have 24/7 people walking around disinfecting doorknobs and handrails.
A new report from the CDC supports the earlier belief that most coronavirus cases in children appear to be either asymptomatic or mild. But the report said that when children are hospitalized, they need intensive care as often as adults do.
That was Victor Blackwell reporting. Up next, President Trump signed 4 new executive actions yesterday for coronavirus relief, but how will they affect average Americans? We'll break it all down after the break. Plus, colleges across the country are welcoming students back to campus, but what restrictions are in place to ensure their safety? We'll take a look.
Ahead for us, new fears about sending kids back to class after a COVID outbreak at a Georgia school. Also a warning about those electronic bicycles after celebrity Simon Cowell had a back-breaking crash. Those stories and more tonight on Nightly News.
Yesterday, President Trump signed 4 new executive actions. 3 are memorandums and 1 is an executive order. They're all designed to help those struggling across the country. But what do they really mean for the average American? Britt Conway reports.
Stimulus talks may have stalled, but President Trump is pushing full steam ahead with 4 executive actions. And White House Chief Economic Advisor Larry Kudlow says it was the right thing to do.
He has said we will use every power the federal government has to help out. And I think this is an example of that.
But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi questions their effectiveness, among other things.
They're absurdly unconstitutional.
So let's break these down. First up, an additional $400 in unemployment benefits. States would have to pay the first $100, then the federal government would add $300. But do states have the money?
The states have not spent all the money that was allocated to them.
No, they don't. They have expenses from the coronavirus. They have lost revenue.
Up next, pausing payments and interest on federal student loans until the end of the year. Number 3, an executive order on eviction, putting that decision in the hands of the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC.
If they are concerned about community spread, for example, they will trigger actions that will prevent evictions.
The 4th and final signature, delaying the payroll tax until the end of the year. That's what comes out of your paycheck for Social Security and Medicare. But questions remain over legalities of these actions.
I understand there will be a debate.
Whether they're legal or not takes time to figure out.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
The governor of Illinois proposes new guidelines for enforcement of a mask mandate statewide. The new rules give local agencies more leeway in enforcement. Businesses, schools, and child care facilities are allowed several warnings before any penalty is issued. After that, they could face fines of up to $2,500 for refusing to comply. We're taking a live look now at Sturgis, a small town in South Dakota. The annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is underway this weekend. Hundreds of thousands of bikers attend every single year. You can see in that picture right there. Many are not wearing those masks. The massive gathering raises concerns that this year's rally could spread the coronavirus. In South Dakota, there's no limits on indoor crowds and no mandates about wearing masks. South Dakota's governor has taken a hands-off approach to the pandemic and supports holding that rally. After the first week of school in Cherokee County, Georgia, 17 positive COVID-19 cases have been reported around the district. 7 are students and 10 are staff members. As a result, some 150 students and staff at different schools will be quarantined for the next 2 weeks. Cherokee County does not have a tipping point that would make them close a school. They say they'd have to take into account a variety of factors and make a decision on a school-by-school basis. And this weekend, many universities are welcoming back students, but parents are dropping their kids off to a very different on-campus college experience. Blaine Alexander has that.
From the University of Kentucky to Tulsa's Oral Roberts University to Troy University in Alabama. Starting this week, it's move-in day at dozens of college campuses nationwide.
After quarantine, I'm so excited to be in a new environment. I was home for 4 months.
At Georgia Tech, a staggered return, rooms reconfigured for more single-dwelling options, and a new app where students can sign up for meal times or order to go.
Any concerns as you drop them off?
Well, I'll tell you, not really, because I believe that everything's been kind of addressed here at Tech.
At Duke University, students are greeted with COVID tests. This fall, only freshmen and sophomores will be housed on campus.
This is a difficult but a necessary decision.
And at Notre Dame, where classes start Monday, the school's president says all students will be tested before returning.
We'll continue to test them. It's critical that we monitor their health, everybody's health.
But even with precautions, there are some issues. At Iowa State University, 66 students tested positive for COVID during move-in. The school has set aside space on campus to isolate them. And at Syracuse, a group of students placed on interim suspension for breaking the school's mandatory quarantine.
University of Notre Dame here.
Back in South Bend, as students return to campus, some are already raising concern.
So far, socially distancing seems not great.
Rising junior Miguel Hoke is so worried about contracting COVID, he's taking a leave of absence. His virtual learning application denied.
I don't want my son sick. I don't want him getting anyone else sick.
Even Notre Dame's president is facing some criticism after posing for this picture with students, masked but not distanced. He later apologized.
I made a mistake.
Officials say despite their best efforts at prevention, there are measures in place should COVID come to campus.
We're going to do everything possible to keep them safe. And what we're telling them also is tell your sons and daughters to act responsibly.
College campuses coming back to life as students prepare to face a new reality. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
Well, Duke University is providing a way to report students who aren't following coronavirus guidelines. It's called the Duke Speak Up Hotline. Students began moving onto campus on Friday, and restrictions are in place to keep everyone safe. Once classes begin, students are expected to sign a pledge that they'll wear face coverings in public, maintain social distance, and wash their hands often. We're taking a live look now from our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam. Mike's got a look at your forecast when we come back. right, we're going to take a couple different live looks from our Agua Caliente Casino cams. Beautiful day out there. This is Palm Springs. Let's head over to Ranch Mirage. There we have it. We're in the desert, but it's not feeling too hot out there. But Mike's going to break it down. Hey, Mike.
Well, despite seeing a low pressure system punch into the Pacific Northwest this weekend, it didn't do much to help keep us cool. In fact, high pressure is built in behind that trough that we saw going into the weekend, and that has warmed us. But it looks like this is as warm as it's going to get. We're not tracking anything that looks like it's going to be ridiculously hot over the next few days. So running a few degrees above average is not a bad deal. Things still remain quiet off in the tropics as well. We're taking an eye on a couple of things coming off the African coast, but that's a problem for next week. Here's what we're looking at for temperatures tomorrow. We will start warm along the west coast, some mid-70s in Vancouver, low 80s in Seattle, upper 80s in Portland, pushing 90 degrees there, 71 in San Francisco. We'll see 89 and muggy in Miami, 87 and muggy in New York as well. Minneapolis right at the 80-degree mark, 89 in Billings, 90 tomorrow in Denver. Here's what we're going to see here is basically the same pattern that we saw on Sunday, where basically we get that light afternoon flow comes in from the south and southeast by day, makes that switch around to the north and northwest in the evening. We saw it get gusty tonight. It's up to about 30, 40 miles an hour in some wind-prone spots. All of that will start to settle down as we go into the early morning hours. Here's what we're expecting. Temperatures to start in the mid to upper 70s. Dew points will dive back down into the mid-30s once again, and temperatures will hit that 110 mark, so about 3 degrees above average in Palm Springs, 112 in Indio, 102 in Joshua Tree. We'll find some upper 70s in Big Bear, 99 in Cabazon, and 96 out towards Banning. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows us locked into a very similar pattern for the rest of the work week here. A few degrees above average by day is one thing, but as long as we can keep those overnights in the 70s, we're doing just fine.
Protesters threw rocks at security in Beirut today. In a second day of anti-government demonstrations, anger at authorities has boiled over since the devastating explosion last Tuesday that killed more than 150 people. Protesters are calling on the government to quit over what they say was negligence. NBC's Rebecca Collard reports.
After the massive protest that we saw here last night, people are back in the streets and they're clashing again with the government. People are just so angry about this blast here on Tuesday, and they absolutely blame the government for what happened.
The president said it's an accident. Actually, it's a crime. It's not an accident. And they are not martyrs. They are victims.
They have the real authority. That's why we will not get out of the streets until our needs are met, until the new elections and all the three pillars of the government are got down.
All day today, people have been telling me that they will not accept simply the resignation of the country's information minister. What they want is for the whole government to fall. They say that it's, the decades of corruption and nepotism and mismanagement that they have been suffering that also led to this blast on Tuesday that killed so many people and really have destroyed this city. There's still a lot of anger in the streets here tonight. They say this is no longer a protest movement. Now it's an uprising. Rebecca Collard, NBC News, Beirut.
We'll be right back after the break. All right, check it out. We've got a QR code that's popping up on the screen right now. If you missed any of our top stories, just point your phone's camera at it and you'll see a page with links to all of our social media. You can see all the social media right here. Also pretty cool, this is going to be a little inception. We stream on Facebook now, so you can watch us on Facebook as well and comment. I said, hello everyone, happy Sunday. So I'll see you on there too. And I'll see you at 6 o'clock tonight on NBC Palm Springs. Have a great day.